It is time. It's time to stop hiding. It's time to stand up. It's time for Christians to come together, to share their testimony, to inspire hope, and to join their brothers and sisters as we answer the call. It is time to wake up the lions. And folks, I have an absolute lioness with me here today who is doing some fantastic things in his name, has written a wonderful book. She's a former nun, she's an end-of-life doula, and she's the author of Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk, Faith, Sobriety, Self-Discovery, and Healing, a Memoir. Please welcome to the show, Gina Economopoulos. Gina, how are you doing today?
Very good, Rory, and it's great to be here and hi to all your listeners.
Well, on behalf of all of them, hi back. I love that you're here. I'm glad you and I were able to connect. You've got an amazing story, and I know you've been through just a ton, and I can't wait to hear about the book. So go ahead and give us, a little bit about who is Gina, and well, how has God influenced your life? Start wherever you would like, and I'll keep up.
Oh, please do, and feel free to interrupt. I don't mind it because I could go on and on and on. You know, the Holy Spirit, once you pray, asking the Holy Spirit to come upon you, that's it, takes
Yep.
over, and that's what I always do. And normally, I'll tell you, years ago, I never heard of the Holy Spirit, so many years ago, but today, I always call upon because it's the Holy Spirit that wakes me up every day. And to be that lion or to grow into that lioness. And I love the name of your podcast, Wake Up. It's like, yes, wake up, wake up. I still got to wake up, but still, I'm here today to share that there was a time where I didn't wake up in that kind of way, in Christianity way, or going to church. I'm a Long Island girl. I was raised in Syosset, one of 8 kids. I was the seventh child. Everything was great. My parents, my loved us unconditionally, no complaints. When I was born, I was born with a lot of physical difficulties, hip replace, hip, just everything, you name it. And I was just born with a lot of health problems. But yet my mom would say, but you can walk, you can walk. Yes, I can walk. But every year I had to have surgery for something, whatever it may be. So growing up, granted, my parents loved me, but my insides, and I didn't have a relationship with God because I was a cool person. Jesus wasn't cool back then. You know that? I mean, he wasn't cool. So I kept my distance. I received all my sacraments, went to mass, etc. But my insides, I was sort of dead to my insides. My one would say I kind of like felt sorry for myself because I wasn't athletic like my sisters. I compared myself. I thought I was ugly. Like, look at my sisters, they're popular, and here I am, just trying to get through each day or each year, whatever it may be, and I always had a great smile. So I was covering behind my smile. And that's what kept me going. My smile and my family and my parents. As time went on, as I would think every kid did this, but I was looking for love and looking for that acceptance and where I belong. And I was looking in all the wrong places. I was looking with the drinking, when I was in college, I got introduced with the drugs and unhealthy relationship. Because when I got into college, I I didn't need God or I didn't, and not that I didn't believe in him. It was just like, I'm in college. I'm having fun. I'm
Right.
still looking. Uh, when I went to college, I went to school in Connecticut and I was looking for a guy, a 4 year degree man to marry and everything, that's what everyone does, right? You meet your spouse. And so I'm like, yeah, this is it. But when I left college, I didn't meet anyone. Of course, I had unhealthy relationships during college times, but yet I became a pool player. I was a pool shark, and I got my degree in social work.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so I have to say when I graduated from college back in 1989, no, don't want to count my year, but I my parents lived in Pennsylvania at the time from New York, so I went to go live with them. And Yeah, like I said, I was 23 years old. What am I going to do? I have this 2 degrees, social work and billiards. I call that as a degree because I ran everyone off the table and everybody loved Gina and everybody wanted me to be on their team. I mean,
Right.
I would have like the townies saying, "Oh, Gina, you're here. Can you be my partner?" Like, yeah, I can run the table. So, but that's how I was getting attention. And I
Yeah.
thought that was it. So as I continued, now, mind you, of course, God wasn't in my life. Church, I stopped going to church. But during my after, like, oh, I should say, when I did graduate, I did. I got a job and I was a bartender because what does every social work slash billiards do? Get a degree. My father paid
Right.
my education. Yeah, I'll bartend until I get a real job. Till I get a real job, like,
Right.
and I never got a real job. So I just stayed bartending, and then all of a sudden, I remember that I was looking, once again, I'm still looking for that love. At the age of 23, one would think you loved yourself, but I didn't. But I just kept smiling. I have this personality plus, so everybody loved Gina and everything. I was named after Gina Lola Bridget. I was like, oh, how cute you are, and but during that time of bartending, lived with my parents. My mother was diagnosed with cancer, 4 to 6 months to live. She was given terminally ill. She had bone cancer. So what does every daughter do? I mean, I was like, no, mom, you can't die. You can't. I'm 23 years old. You can't die.
Yeah.
So my parents, now mind you, my parents were devout Catholics. They went to church. They sometimes every day. And so here they bring out the prayers, the rosary, and all this. And I'm like, okay, God, I'm going to go back to church and you could heal my mom. And
Right.
and I was like that. Like I had no concept of heaven. I had no concept of dying. I had no concept of God's will or anything like that. All my concept was, how am I going to save my mom? How am I going to heal her?
Sure.
And we tried everything. Of course, the rosaries, the novenas, uh started reading like the scriptures, like this is it, this is it. Trying all these Chinese ancient whatever. Okay, Bob, you got it, you got it. But back then in 1991, they didn't have no technology. I hopefully they have today, but the bone cancer was just, it was in her bone. It started in her bone. So it was just pure pain. And yes, she fought it, and but yet, 5 months later, the doctors were correct because she died. I mean, I was like, how could you? How could she? How could you? How could the doctors be right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you would hear doctors, other people saying, "Oh, the doctor says this," and they had like 3 more years to live. And at this point, I was so furious with God. Like, how could you? I mean, here I did A, B, C, D, E. Yeah, I went back to church. I went back to confession. I did all this,
Right.
and so and I was like in a pit. I was like, why? Well, I mean, that's a question for all of us. I mean, everyone, right? Everyone
Right.
uses says, why this? Why God? Why did you do this to me? She was my mother. I'm 23 years old. She was going to be, I want her to have my marriage, whatever, she's supposed to be with. So anyhow, after she died, people told me she was with God, and of course I was angry with God. And she said, everyone says she's in heaven. What's heaven? It's a scary place. What is heaven? Heaven's not with me. Mom's not with me. So I
Right.
did. I went back to my Catholic faith. I went back to the Catholic Church. I went just crying, just praying, yelling. I'm like, God, I want mom. I kept talking to my mom. I was journaling. Mom, where are you? Where are you? I did it for about a year of journaling to my mother, like, how can this be? Someone would ask me, I'd be like, it's 55 days, 5 hours since she died. Like I was such in a dark place. And the reason why, Rory, is because, and I look back in hindsight, I didn't have faith. I didn't have any hope. I didn't have any love. I didn't have God in my life. I didn't have a relationship. Like God was out there, not in my heart. And I
Yeah.
did not know that. But I experienced that watching my mother die without having any of that. That's pure hell. That is totally pure hell.
Yeah.
So here I'm searching. I come back to my roots. I come to my faith. I'm like, aha, I had a St. Paul's conversion. I got knocked off the bar stool, not a horse, like, yeah, this is it. Jesus,
Right.
I'm a Jesus lover, like everyone's going to hell, like Sodom and Gomorrah, like that. And in that, I'm thinking, okay, I'll go join the convent. So I did. I joined the convent as
I
I
mean,
was a
that's
Catholic.
not that casual of a decision. You know?
Doesn't everybody do that?
Right. It doesn't anybody just go join a convent. I mean, it's not
I
the type of
just
thing you just try out for a little while.
no, no, not. It was something that okay. Here, like I said, I experienced the resurrection from
Hmm.
my mom's death, which I should have received it Easter time my whole life. Right at Easter, we received the resurrection.
Right.
Did not. Okay, so here I had my mom's. My mom had her own passion, her own death of bone cancer, and she died. And I had a resurrection. So in that, I'm thinking, okay, I go from one extreme to another. I'm still trying to fit where I belong in life. So, okay, now I belong into the church because everybody loves me. I mean, I could not do anything wrong. I'm this short, petite Greek Italian girl, and so when I had engaged with this community of Franciscans back in 1993. It was like about a year after my mom passed away, and I just saw these young men and women loving God and having fun. Okay, I could do that. I could, why not?
Right.
So but I didn't, so I got connected with them, but I didn't join until 97 because of discernment. Do I want to join? Do I not? Da, 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 da. So here I joined the sisters in the South Bronx of New York. We worked with the poor. Like I said, we were Franciscans. And I loved it. Now everybody loves Sister Regina. I had this little, veil on it. Nobody could say no to Sister Regina if she asked anything. I mean, it's like, yeah, God. And and that's where I mean, I learned to pray. I love to pray. Being in the chapel in the convent was the most safest place for me to be. I was somehow I was able to sit in that chapel. I purely on God's grace for hours and hours and hours just talking to God and writing and reading and and then when the sisters we would do community prayer times. So I was like, okay, this is it. This is my life. Okay, forget about the man, forget about the husband, forget about marriage. And it was a choice. It was a choice. And I chose thinking that this was my life, to live a life of poverty, chastity, obedience, to give everything up, which I did. I did. I was a Franciscan for 12 years in that community.
Wow.
And of course, in the beginning was the honeymoon stage. But then yet at the same time, I was like, do I really belong here? I mean, because you're confined, you got to learn how to give up things and you sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifice. You sleep on the floor, which I don't care. I mean, I never mind those things, but you give up the luxury of life, the materialistic things. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a very simple person, always was, not a big deal. And so I thought this was a match made in heaven. Like this is it. This is what I found. I found like I belong. Everybody loves me. God loves me because he called me here, because that's a vocation that he called. But as you could tell, I'm not a nun today. So something kind of went wrong there. I mean, after 12 years, it took me a while to realize that I I I mean 12 years I was a nun for 12 years and then I was asked to leave, but I mean it wasn't until years later I came to realize, oh my God, what did I do?
Yeah. So you got fired from being a nun.
Yeah, you could say that. I
Kind of.
never heard it that way. Yeah, you could say that. I was yeah, I was let go, or I, and and during maybe I do have to say, being a nun, the best part was is that I was helping the poor, the people, those outside
Yeah.
the community. We worked with the young kids. I loved uh, gang members. I would get involved with. I loved, going to visiting the sick, the dying, the funerals, the wakes. Being hands on. And yes, I knew God called me then because I would share them the love of God,
Right.
sharing them. Yes, this is me. I was a bartender, pool shark, and now I'm a nun. So they're like, "Oh wow, sister, that's so cool." I'm like, "Yeah, I am a cool person." Because I mean, I did. I knew who God was, and I loved, and I thought, and He did at the time, called me to be there, to
Sure.
give him my life. I can't change it now, but yet during that time, after like 3 or 4 years, after I made final vows, that's where the cross came in, one would say. Like that's where rejection, I was mistreated, I was betrayed, I was kicked out, I was
Oh.
fired. No, not fired. I mean, I was,
Oh.
and at the same time, I didn't understand why they were doing this to me.
Right.
I mean, I like you shared. I did write my book, so I did write it in my book, and it's just from my personal experience where nobody knew really. And I mean, they isolated. I was isolated. They sent me away. I couldn't talk to anyone at one point. Um, People who's like lay people and other like the friars and some, they saw what was going on, but nobody could do anything about it because, and this was a community. And it still is a very well-known, popular community in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And yet I was just I kept telling it, no, everything is fine, everything is fine, everything is fine. And then at the end, the last 2 years of my religious life, they asked me to go away to get help. And and I did. I'm a very open person. Okay, let's find this. And then I just kept praying, God, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing it? Like, why? I'm in final vows, which means I'm married to God, to the church, to the community. So in any kind of marriage, if you're having a rough time, you work it out.
Right.
You go for counseling or whatever. Well, I went for counseling. They didn't. So I did a lot of like self-help, treatments, whatever you want to call it, for almost 2 years. And each time I was sent away, I was like, I got like a little renewal in me. A little more renewal, a little more, like yeah, yeah, yeah. And then at the end, and now I see back now how God was working in my life. Yes, I married him. I knew him. I see miracles through him with others. Like, but yet my insides were still not connected. And at the time, and I did
Right.
not know it. All I know is that why are these people hurting me? Why is God doing this? Why? I'm in religious life, and like I said, they were, they're very well known community. Like, and I never said anything to anyone else, and so after being away for almost 2 years, where I went for 4 months at a therapeutical place, and then I went in silence for another few months with a Bible. The Bible, and I have to say, that's when God kind of woke me up there, started waking me up, because I
Good.
went with it's uh, a silent retreat where you just bring your Bible and your notebook. That's it. I was doing it I went for 1 month. I ended up staying for 7 months because God had a lot to say to me. And I was in silence and writing. All he spoke to me was through his word.
Wow.
At the end, at the end of that 7 months, I had another conversion. Like, wow, I got in the inside, in the inside, I went so deep in my soul that I was like, wow. So here I'm excited. I go back to my community, like, yes, I'm a sister, but they weren't receptive.
Oh,
They
okay.
weren't receptive. And then it was like the peace that I had experienced from that 7 months, they were they were trying to take it away from their actions, or and it all had to do with, I feel, I believe, I'm not here, jealousy, women together, I was a threat because everybody loved me, and this the person in charge, I see it now that, she had a low self-esteem, like she wasn't equipped to be the superior
Yeah.
at that time. And so anyhow, I came back, and then the superior said to me, "I don't think you belong here anymore." So yeah, I guess I got fired. Is that what they say? You don't belong. And uh, and then afterwards, she says, "You want to go for a pizza and an ice cream?" I mean, that's the kind of, like, it doesn't make sense. And but then I wasn't in that kind of capacity where I am today. I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? You know what I mean? Like today, I wouldn't have put up with all that stuff I did.
So they were like,
You
it's
know,
just business. It's not personal type of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I continue. I left the convent. I went to live with men and women with disabilities. They're truly God sent. Down syndrome, when you're living with men with, who are Down syndrome, autistic, mentally retarded, they were just loving. They loved me back because I was shattered, because I just, in my mind, is like, how could these nice people, good people, holy people hurt me? Because I was hurt.
Yeah.
I was, um, once again, in hindsight, I was on the cross for Jesus. I like went through all the stations, picked up my cross, was denied, whatever, rejected, spit upon, you name it. And that's what I experienced.
Ouch.
So now, fast forward, I'd come back into the world. I'm in my 40s. I'm living with these men and women with disabilities, serving like I always had a heart of service, like I did, and like as a social worker and everything. And then I was tired of serving after 2 years being out of the convent, like helping others. I decided to come to the beach. So that's where I am, at the Jersey Shore. I love the beach, is where heaven and earth meet. So it's another chapter of my life that I came here. I'm like, okay, God is still with me in some fashion. He is with me. I used to go back to church, trying to forgive, let go. And at that time, somebody says I should write a book of my experience as a nun. And I was like, if I write it now, it would be all anger, because I was so angry, so angry. I would be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't. I did not. I figured, okay, God, you got a plan for me. This is it.
Right.
We're in it together. Okay, that wasn't it. I fulfilled one vocation in life. Now let me go to an, maybe I'll meet a guy. Okay, I can't have kids, biologically, because I'm in my 40s, but da 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 da, like this. So I did. I go come to the Jersey Shore, and I go back to bartending, because that's the only thing I knew how to do, bartending and a nun. So I came back to bartending, and okay, nobody knew I was a nun. I'm just bartending back, smiling, trying to get back in the swing of things, having a little bit of fun and everything like that. And then Danny walked into the bar, this gentleman, and then we fell for each other. Like, oh, I mean, it was like, oh my God, Danny, and he was a retired cop. And I did not tell him I was a nun at first, because I was scaring all the other guys away. When I would say I was a nun, first thing, oh, what did you do? I was a nun, and they did this to me, they did this to me, and I was sent away, and I was, they told me this, they told me that, and no, and they never called me this guy, like,
Not good
after the
first date
fact.
material. No, not good first date material.
But Rory, that's where my mind was at, because I never knew. I had to
Right.
relearn
Yeah.
all this. And when I kept telling a friend of mine who mother of 8 kids, she says, "Don't tell that," because I'm like saying, "Look at Terry, I think this guy maybe will go for, da da da," and she's like, he's not gonna call you, and I'm like, okay, no problem, and so when I
Right.
met Danny, I didn't say I was a nun, I was a social worker, and but then I told him, and didn't scare him at all. And then I come to find out he's an alcoholic. He was drinking at the time. So
Uh,
I'm like, oh God, why couldn't I find a nice guy? I mean, like just a really nice, and Danny was a very nice guy. And that's what I fell in love with because when he wasn't drinking, when I found out he was an alcoholic, I told him once again, trying to control, you got to stop enabling him. And he did. He stopped a couple, and when he stopped, he was a great guy. It was like, that's the man I want. Okay, God, this is the man. God's grace. I believe in you, God. Look what happened to me as a sister. Look what happened to me with mom. Now I should find some peace and happiness in my life now with Danny. And he did. He did. He fought his demons. He fought his disease. Found he went out west to Arizona, found his sobriety. So I'm like, oh my God, he says, guess what, G? I found it. Great, 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 awesome. So he from the Jersey Shore too, and he packed up his truck. His mom went for a ride across the state to Arizona. I was gonna meet up with him a few months later. Try to pack. We are gonna get married. Da, 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 living happily ever after. That was my dream, right? To
Right.
live happily ever after with a man that will provide for me. Yes, I will work, whatever it may be, that would love me. Well, on their drive, they ended up having an accident on Route 70 over in Indianapolis, like the ninth marker right
Yeah.
before you go into Illinois on Route 70. And a tragic accident in the medium. And matter of fact, there's a cross there. If you ever go by, I put a cross there. But anyhow, this was back in 2012, the summer, where him and his mom got into this tragic accident. He avoided a deer and the mom died. The
Oh,
truck burned up, and Danny was burning, and he was about to die. But a truck driver came and had saved him, had stopped. It was about 1 in the morning, and they flew him to Indianapolis to the burn unit over at that hospital over
yeah.
there. And so when you get that phone call the next morning, and now meanwhile, I'm the one that he's driving off. I'm throwing holy water. I'm praying the Blessed Mother. Like, okay, safe travels, right? But yet, when I got that phone call and saying that his mom passed away and Danny burned up. So what I did was I got up, I packed up my stuff and went to Indianapolis. That's why I was out in Indianapolis because he
Yeah.
did survive the um the fire. We got involved in the rooms of AA out there, very kind people, and he had to stay there because he was burnt on half of his body, and but yet we stayed around because of his outpatient treatment there in the hospital, and plus it was a great group of AA friends. So and they just let us into their homes and everything. So everything is great. We get an apartment over in Beech Grove over there off of Emerson. Emerson over there. That's where I worked at the Steak and Shake, got a job, everything's good. But then
Right.
what does an alcoholic do when he's in pain? He picks up. And I'm just
Right.
like, how could you pick up? I'm not thinking or realizing or compassion. I mean, he saw his mother burn in the fire because he wasn't knocked out. So I was like angry with God, saying, "Why didn't you knock him out so he didn't see it? Well, why did this happen? Why did that damn deer?" I was so angry.
Yeah.
Um, so ultimately, like a few months after that, Danny died from the disease in Indianapolis. He fell, bumped his head.
I'm sorry.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was March of 2013. So back to back, I have to say I hated Indiana. I hated the cornfields. I was like,
I'm
and
sure.
but I do have to be honest to you and all the listeners, when he died, that's where I gave up on God. I mean, that if there was a lion in me or something in me, it was flatline. I was like,
Yeah.
no more. Because my whole life I kept feeling like I kept pushing ahead. God, okay, I believe you. I believe you. Get knocked down. I believe you. I get knocked down. As a sister, I get knocked down. And then here, I totally got knocked down. And I came back to the Jersey Shore. I did have friends, and I still do in Indianapolis that had helped and was there for me. But yet, I was totally lost. I lost Danny. I lost his mom. I just didn't now. I really didn't understand what God wanted from me. And I hated him personally. I really, truly
Sure.
hated God. And then I come back to the Jersey Shore, and once again, I'm kind of searching, looking for Danny. Where's Danny? I went into the rooms of AA thinking, wondering why did he die and these people are living? Like I couldn't understand the disease of alcoholism. I go in there, and that's where, I go in there, and because somebody invited me in, I said, I'm not an alcoholic. You guys are. I mean, I was a nun. I'm this, I'm that. I hate you all. I want to kill I want to kill all. Nobody knew I was a nun at the time, but I was like, I, I was simply existing. I prayed every night not to wake up the next morning, and here I wake up and I'm like, oh crap, I woke up. Why? Why? That three-letter word that's terrible. Why? Why me, God? Why me? Why me? Why me?
Right.
And I just was like, because I worked so hard trying not to say why, trying to accept or surrender, etc. And here I just said, God, look at you do you help those people out to stay sober. Why not Danny? But anyhow, during that time, being in the rooms and listening and just crying and tearing with everything, anger, going through all those emotions, I was in complicated grief. But yet I came one day, God gave me that grace, and I came to realize that I was an alcoholic, which I never thought I was, never
Yeah.
in my life. You hear stories where people could tell you, oh yeah, I knew when I was 10 years old, whatever. But a friend of mine had said to me, as I was going to these meetings, not identifying myself as an alcoholic, a friend said, Gina, what is your relationship with alcohol? Aha. Everything I shared with you, I'd never mentioned that who was my best friend when I had that pain, who was I running to was the alcohol. Like being in the center, being in the middle of it, center of attention, especially in college.
Yeah.
Especially in college, I was like, give me whatever, blackouts, everything like that. And I just made it through. I made it through. But then when I had that little conversion, oh, I can't drink, but yet I did drink, like you
Right.
put one person on. So anyhow, needless to say, on April 2nd, 2015, I raised my hand in a meeting, said, my name is Gina. I am an alcoholic. So it'll be over 10 years now that I'm in sobriety and a recovery.
Congratulations.
And
Yeah.
thank you. And now, boy, did that line wake up. Boy, did I come to see my eyes opened. I mean, not
Was
at first, because at first I was like, not, how can I be an alcoholic? I mean, come on,
sure.
not Gina, not me. And then, thinking about it, like I said, in hindsight, I was a runner, a denier, you name it. I fit a good show. I lived two identities, one in and one out, whatever one would say.
Hmm.
But then when I realized it and when I came to accept it and surrender to the disease, I mean, it wasn't only the drinking part, it was the manipulation, the insecurity, and all this other good
Right.
stuff that I was clinging on to, uh, uh, like as my one of the many symptoms, like because I didn't like myself.
Right.
And finding this program, it's a 12-step program, and working this 12-step program one day at a time. Yeah, God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. He finally able where when I said I really truly hated God, and I did share that in the rooms, and after the meeting, this was in the beginning, and nobody knew I was a nun, and after the meeting, people would say to me, "Oh, you can't hate God, you can't." And I said, I was thinking to myself, "Yes, I can. He was my husband. I'm divorced to him, and he's on the couch.
There you go.
I know who God is. Don't tell me, like
That's
if
a
you have a
unique
divorce,
perspective. Yeah.
yeah."
It
I
is.
mean, and and it was like, yes, he's on the couch. God is
Right.
on the couch right now, and that's why. I mean, and eventually they found out I was a nun, and I shared that. I said, and honestly, I wish I came into the rooms not knowing who God was because I was so angry with him. But yeah, one day at a time, not picking up a drink and working a program, meetings, and doing everything that they suggested, God came back in my life. Not that he came back in my life. He was always there. He woke me up again.
You let him
But
back
this
in.
time, yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, he's like, finally. And and so now today, it's like that roaring lion, it's like it's it's amazing what I have today within my heart. It's amazing what I could do today.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had this. I wish I knew I needed the rooms 30 years ago, but that was not my story. I
Right.
had to go through everything I had to go through, all the pain, rejection, you name it, the insecurities and everything to be the person who I am today. I had to go through what I had to go through of my belief and unbelief with God, my hate, everything, not having faith to having faith. Because I know now when you don't have faith, hope, and love and no God in your life, it's pure hell. It is hell. I don't care what the hell on earth is an existence of hell on earth.
Yeah.
And I had experienced that full body fledged and everything that I thought, Rory, that's how I was going to live the rest of my life. That's
Wow.
what I thought my purpose in life when Danny died was to suffer, was to suffer. Bring it on. Give it to Gina. Let
Right.
everyone have the peace and the serenity and whatever. Bring it on. I do it. Give it to me. I'll take it. You like Mikey, right? He'll eat it. So, but um, but
Yeah.
anyhow, fast forward today. God, yes, has woken me up. We woke up together because He was always within me, and now we have like the rooms. They say, the God has brought me into the rooms of AA, but AA has brought me back to God
That's
in
nice.
such a deep way,
Yeah.
and it's such a powerful way, and in such a way that I do have a heart to heart relationship with Him in such a way that I share my experience, strength, and joy, not only in my story, but the love of God. Like I
Yeah.
always talking about God, like to anyone and everyone, go with God. Just go with God. That's simple. Go with
Right.
God. Go with God because I know in my heart that God is not only with us, is with everyone, and there's a story to be told, and it's like just so much. This, I mean, I just and of now, not only I incorporate corporate like being in the rooms and that program, I do incorporate with the church and I incorporate with the Bible, religious, because this 12-step program is not a religious program, it's a spiritual program. And that's what I needed. My
Yeah.
whole life is that spirituality within my heart to knock down everything, say, this is me, God. And God's like, oh, and I'd be like, oh my God, you love me just as me? Yes, I do.
Nice. So you put this all down into your book. Again,
Yes.
it's shake the dust off your feet and walk, faith, sobriety, self-discovery, and healing, a memoir. You put this down. Did you put it into the book to help sort of bring your story out so that others could learn from it, or is this sort of a warning to people? What's the purpose of the book?
The, the purpose of the book, it is sending that, giving that message to those who are not to give up. It's a message of hope and strength. Also, I have to admit, it was a great healing for me too.
Oh, good.
Being healed when I wrote that story, when I wrote my story. It's like, aha,
Yeah.
aha. And now I see it, like I shared with you that I couldn't write it like 20 years ago, whatever, because I was full of anger. But I'm full of love. And it was truly that God inspired me to say, this is our story. This is not your story. This is our story. And I want you to share it for one person. I don't, I see, I thought by now I'd be on Johnny Carson, but you know what? I am so happy I'm on Wake Up a Lion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just so happy because I just want to spread my message or hope to anyone and everyone that, you're not alone, not only in your personal trials, because we all do, life goes on, we have our difficulties. Um, I can't tell you what to do, what not to do, but if anyone listens to my story, reads my story, or gets something out of it saying, wow, if she could do it, well, maybe I won't be a nun. No, I'm not telling anyone to go be a nun. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, or that you're an alcoholic. I'm not saying anything like that. But I'm just saying for each one, we all have our own stories, that we have a journey of faith and hope, that it does get, you do discover it as you just keep moving forward, keep breathing, keep
Yeah.
crying, whatever you need to do. And it does, more is revealed. It's like,
Yeah.
wow. And you come to see, as I was praying before this, Wake Up the Lion, like you were sharing, I was listening to your other podcasts, and it's like, yeah, we're the lion too, because it needs it in this life, in this world today. It's a dark world.
Yeah.
But God's all victorious. He already won it. But we're here, we are here, and we need, like you said, to proclaim, to share. Uh, I remember Pope John Paul II said back in the 1990s, preach it from your rooftops, to the young
Rooftops.
people. Go and preach it from your rooftops. And
Yeah.
and we do. We do need to preach that, and we need to share it. And I pray, like I ask God, every day, bring people in my life that I could talk to, share with, whatever I need to. But also, we need that little lamb inside us, that little gentleness within ourselves, right? You see the lion and the lamb. You see those
Sure.
pictures, especially around Christmas time.
Oh,
That
yeah.
they're cuddled together. And this is. I'm not saying this is theologian, whatever, 101, or like this. This is my belief, is that we also need that little lamb, that little gentleness for ourselves. We need that little love for ourselves. We need that little compassion for ourselves. Like, and then, okay, I'm gonna I'll wake up, I'll go and help someone else or whatever it may be. But I just, yeah, I was just thinking of that as I was praying about that before this podcast, just
Yeah.
to, ooh, the lion, wake up, and then I just saw the vision of the lamb too. So,
Well,
and
I'm
I
glad
was
you
praying
shared
about that.
that.
Yeah.
Gina, you tell an amazing story. You really do. And it's amazing everything you've been through. We're just about out of time. I love the fact that you brought this today and that you're putting your message out there for everybody. But I want to make sure everybody knows how to reach you. How can they find your book? How can they find you?
They could find me on my website, ginaecon.com. And then my book, as you share, was Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk, and it's available on Amazon. Very simple.
Got it.
And of
Okay.
course, you could find me on Instagram, Gina Economopoulos, and my Facebook. So,
Perfect. All right. The Facebook is Economopoulos also. The whole
yeah,
whole name all the way through.
the whole name. But
All
my
right.
but my website is Gina Econ.
Yep.
It's not the whole name.
ECON.com.
Yes,
All right.
dot
I'm going to
com.
make sure that's all in the show notes for everybody. Uh,
Thank you so much, Rory. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Gina, thank you for coming on and telling your story. I mean, really and
Thank
truly,
you.
it's very unique and you tell it beautifully. And I know that you're trying to help folks that are out there, going through similar things. So appreciate you helping us wake up the lions.
Amen.
All
Amen.
right.
And thank you, Rory, for your service and for waking up the alliance yourself.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much. All right, folks. It is time. It's time to wake up the lions, like Gina and I have been saying. But more than that, it's time for you to take your rightful place with your brothers and your sisters and let them hear you roar. The world is ready. You're ready. You just have to believe it.